Hi, and welcome to Business Inspirations. I'm Coach Cynthia Wihardja and the owner of ActionCOACH South Jakarta. As usual, Business Inspirations is a show about actual people, real businesses, and we're going to talk about best practices and the thinking behind successful businesses. So today we are very happy to welcome Mr. Ramesh Divyanathan, the President Director of BMW. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And today we're going to learn about the secret behind the BMW brand. What makes it so successful? What makes it the most admired brand? And what is the thinking behind developing such a brand? And just a little bit of background. Since 1995, Mr. Ramesh Divyanathan has contributed to BMW through his roles in corporate communications, corporate affairs, and marketing. Following his assignment in Munich and Singapore in leading roles in the marketing department, he was appointed as the President Director of BMW Indonesia in 2009. In 2010, BMW has experienced 38% growth over the previous year and is celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. It's recently announced that it will invest another 8 million euro or 100 billion rupiah on production facilities in the next 2 years. So what's interesting about the BMW brand is that it's very strong, and it's usually associated with innovation, sporty, speed, yeah? And hearing from its leader, especially one that's coming from a marketing background, would be an interesting story to follow, yeah? So let's get started. BMW was sold through distributors before, and since 10 years ago, it's become a subsidiary in Indonesia. What's the vision behind that move?
Well, BMW in Indonesia is still, we still sell our cars through independent retailers, our dealers. What we have done 10 years ago is that we have set up our own national sales company in here to manage the entire business. A lot of it goes into training, a lot of it goes into marketing and into the after sales to ensure that our customers are well looked after. And it's obviously, it's always a cooperation with our dealers in the end, because they are the ones that are really having the face to the customer. And we try to stand a bit further in the background, apart from a program like that where I'm in the forefront.
Okay. So what do you want people to think about when they hear BMW? What's your brand value?
Yeah, I think the core brand value for BMW is a well-known slogan, sheer driving pleasure. And this is a brand promise that every single BMW has to deliver upon. We describe sheer driving pleasure also in one word called joy. And joy is a feeling that every customer should feel when they drive a BMW or when they experience BMW, perhaps they're being chauffeured, for example. So joy is a feeling that it's a very, very common feeling for a human being to be used to, but it's something which every BMW conveys as well. And joy is not just about driving the car in a sporty, dynamic way, but it's also about looking at the car, for example, because it's beauty, it's a beautiful car, the design is gorgeous, so that's a joy. It's a joy to look at the car. And we often talk about the whole ownership experience of a BMW. It's not just about buying a new car and having the new car delivered to your house, but how does the whole ownership experience, let's say over the 3 years, is it a joy or is it a pain? And of course, it's our job here as part of BMW Indonesia itself to ensure that our salespeople, our own staff, our dealers to make sure that the whole experience is a joyful experience for them.
I see. So we'll talk about branding. You talk about a brand promise. Many companies we see here, the brand is their logo, their name. So what is the process of thinking when you go behind a brand promise? How do you create one? How does a company go about creating one?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of companies just think their brand is their name.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I think it's really important to really understand what does the product really deliver. That goes back to the core attribute of a brand. It's a promise, and the promise has to be met. Otherwise, the customers will not believe in the promise at the end of the day. And the promise itself, there are different aspects to this promise. For BMW, it's joy. But joy has also other brand attributes, because joy itself would be rather limiting as well. So in the BMW brand, we talk about design or aesthetics, because it has to look beautiful. Every BMW looks absolutely gorgeous. It has to be innovative. We do a lot of R&D, for example, to ensure that our cars have the latest technology that our customers expect when they buy a BMW. And it has to be dynamic or sporty. And these are sub-brand values that every customer will also feel. Now, every BMW has these attributes, but some BMWs more than others in certain attributes, for example. And the beauty of this is that you get people who would like a particular car because it's very, very sporty, and others who would like a car because just the design was just to them irresistible, for example. But at the same time, it's still a typical BMW because they all convey joy. And I think it's more than just a product finally as well, because in the end, the people stand behind the product. And we often look at what are the customer touch points particularly new customers, because they may not have owned a BMW or even driven a BMW. So how do you even get them to understand what the brand value is about if they've not sat in a BMW, for example? So one has to look at all the customer touch points, whether it's advertising, whether it's a BMW event, a launch event, for example, whether it's a showroom, for example. How do our salespeople meet and greet our customers? How do they sell a BMW? And the brand attribute, the brand values must also be conveyed in every single touch point.
Right. You're mentioning earlier that when we were talking before the show, even the color, the font, everything has to be consistent. Many
Yes.
I'm sure multinational companies, this is very normal, but if you look at small, medium-sized companies, as they are developing their brand, how important is it from the start to have all these standards in place?
I think for an SME, I think it would be quite overwhelming for them to really go into every single little detail like the way BMW does. I mean, it's a company which is over 95 years old. And we've obviously, refined this to a fine art. But for SME, I think they have to ask themselves in the end, what is their brand promise? If they're selling a particular product or are they delivering a particular service, and they have to ask themselves, what is the promise that they are delivering to their customer? And then the brand promise would be the core attribute, and then things that are very, very close to this brand promise are areas that they should work on immediately. And I would say, let's leave the font aside first if you're SME. Let's go into the people, for example. Right. So the people should also represent the brand. If you are selling something which is a young product, for example, then I think you must employ people who are not necessarily young, but I think young at heart.
So we work on the touch point that is closest to the market first, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you very much. For this next segment, we're going to dig deeper about not just, of course, the font size and all these type of things, but the other aspects of the company that would be communicating the brand. So stay with us. We'll be back with Mr. Ramesh from BMW.